It's 11 p.m. and these are the headlines. A look back at the official celebrations of the National Day of the PNA, presided over by the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, a ceremony in recognition of the sacrifices of the People's National Army. "68 defendants in pre-trial detention and 3 others under judicial supervision for involvement in cases of corruption relating to the collection of signature forms for the presidential election." The Somam training ship celebrated the National Day of People's National Army by opening its doors to the Algerian community living in Belgium. And the Moroccan Progressive Movement denounces the Paris U-turn on the Sahrawi cause, calling on French President to respect the UN process of decolonization. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, the official festivities of the National Day of the PNA were chaired yesterday by the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, at the Army Circle here in Algiers. The ceremony was held in honor of the retirees of the PNA, the families of the national duty martyrs, as well as the wounded members in the fight against terrorism. Rania Bhai reports.
After listening to the national anthem and saluting the flag, different military formations presented their honors to the President of the Republic. The President then greeted the senior officers and executives of the National People's Army who came to welcome him. At the military circle of the Army, the President of the Republic presided over the ceremony to celebrate the National Day of the National People's Army, a ceremony in honor of the AMP retirees from the National Liberation Army, the families of the national duty martyrs, the seriously disabled and wounded personnel of the AMP in the fight against terrorism. The ceremony was held in the presence of senior state officials. The Army General Said Shengriha, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, expressed his gratitude and thanks to the President of the Republic for presiding over the ceremony to celebrate the National Day of the Army, affirming that the proclamation of this day is a recognition of the nation for the sacrifices of the National People's Army throughout the history of independent Algeria.
First of all, I address to the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, my most sincere thanks and gratitude for his honor today of chairing this ceremony for the National Day of the National People's Army. This blessed day, which the President has designated, reflects the loyalty of the nation and its recognition of the sacrifices of the members and leaders of the National People's Army, the worthy heir to the National Liberation Army throughout the journey of independent Algeria, starting from the construction phase until the security crisis phase that our country has gone through, during which the members of the National People's Army were able to confront barbaric terrorism with all their strength and determination, and succeeded alongside the loyal sons of the nation in defeating the plot to destroy the national state in order to preserve the homeland and the republican system of the country.
The General of the Army, Said Shengriha, affirmed that the National People's Army is fully aware of the extreme importance of its responsibility in preserving the security and stability of Algeria.
The National People's Army, worthy to the National Liberation Army, faithful to the noble message it carries, has always been at the heart of the battles and major challenges that Algeria has experienced. It was present with force in the decisive turning points in the history of our country. Our noble mission, with which it has been invested and committed to fully assume its duty, rigor and dedication. We dedicate to you in loyalty to the homeland, the people and the principle of the Republic this behavior that the supreme leadership should have instilled in our individuals, which allowed our armed forces to take great strides on the path of modernization and development and to raise our operational readiness to the expected level, made of combat efficiency, high professionalism and self-sacrifice.
The President of the Republic has decreed August 4th as the National Day of the National People's Army in recognition of the major steps taken by the military institution in the development of the defense system. Today, the ANP continues its missions, the solid Army-nation bond, a deep and anchored relationship that illustrates its strong conviction and its total mobilization in all circumstances.
And the Somam training ship celebrated the National Day of People's National Army by opening its doors to the Algerian community living in Belgium, where it docked.
Just like every Mediterranean stopover of the military training ship Somam, a ceremony is organized for the accredited military attaché in the host country and the members of the diplomatic staff. Algeria's ambassador to Belgium and the Consul General in Brussels attended the ceremony in Zeebrugge, which coincided with the symbolic day for the People's National Army. The stopover of the Somam training ship at the Zeebrugge port coincides with a special occasion, which is the National Day of the People's National Army. Special measures were taken for this special occasion. The pride of the naval forces opened its doors to the Algerians living in Belgium. On the occasion of the stopover of the Somam training ship, which is part of the 2024 summer naval training campaign for the student officers of the Algerian naval forces, we organized open days on the ship for the members of the national community living in Belgium.
تم تنظيم أبواب مفتوحة على متن السفينة المدرسة الصمام لفائدة الجالية الجزائرية المقيمة ببلجيكا.
The families came to discover the universe of the Algerian naval forces, and the future officers presented their work to the visitors with a lot of professionalism in a friendly atmosphere.
It's a very good initiative. We were warmly welcomed with our families and children in a brotherly atmosphere full of cohesion. We really felt a strong bond between us and our army.
This unique moment was more than just an initiative. It was also the reflection of the strong cohesion and the unique bond that ties our army and the Algerians, whether they live in Algeria or abroad.
And a few days separate us from the start of the electoral campaign. Brahim Oued has been appointed today as the campaign director for the candidate Abdelmajid Tebboune. Brahim Oued is a graduate of the National School of Administration and has held office of Wali of Tindouf, Tiaret, Bashar, El Bouaqi, Annaba, Indifla, Mdia and Tizi Ouzou. He has also worked as the mediator of the Republic and Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Regional Planning. Justice now as 77 suspects, including candidates, have been brought before the courts, and a judicial investigation has been opened against them for undue privilege, influence peddling, offering or promising cash donations in order to obtain or attempt to obtain electoral votes, abuse of office, receiving cash donations or promises for electoral votes, and fraud. The examining magistrate of the National Economic and Financial Criminal Unit has ordered that 68 defendants be remanded in custody and 3 others under judicial supervision for their involvement in the corruption that tainted the operation to collect signature forms of candidates for the forthcoming presidential election, while the 6 others were set free. And Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi chaired today the 187th session of the Council of the State's Participation, a meeting devoted to finalizing the legal procedures relating to the definitive settlement of the case of immovable and movable assets confiscated in accordance with the final judicial rulings as part of the fight against corruption and the transfer of property for valuable consideration to public economic enterprises. These procedures are part of the implementation of the commitments of the President of the Republic and his directives concerning strengthen in the definitive handling of this matter through appropriate methods for the reallocation of the funds recovered for the benefit of the national community and to ensure optimum operation of the concerned production units. The Council of the State's participation also adopted the project to set up Maritime Works Group as an effective tool for carrying out the investments planned as part of the development of maritime infrastructures to support the dynamics that the national economy is undergoing, in particular in terms of promoting non-hydrocarbon exports. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, received acting head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, Stephanie Khouré. The meeting was an opportunity to review the efforts and endeavours made by the UN to push forward the political process of resolving the Libyan crisis, which Algeria fully supports, both from its position as a non-permanent member of the Security Council and from its various positions in regional organisations, in particular the African Union.
الجزائر وأشكر المالي الوزير وطبعا الدولة.
I thank Algeria as well as the Minister for this visit. We had profound discussions regarding the crisis in Libya as well as the encountered challenges, namely within the security field, the political one and the stability in the region. Algeria has an important role in supporting Libya's efforts.
إن المعوقات التي لا تزال تطال الجهود الأممية.
The obstacles which affects the international efforts aimed at ending the crisis in Libya, notably the postponement of the electoral entitlement in light of the institutional division and the risk of escalation between brothers, must aware us to identify the shortcomings in our collective efforts and anticipate future stages with rationality.
Presidential elections. The National Independent Authority for Election has established media rules for the electoral event. And media, private media, have to ensure an equitable access to all the candidates while covering their activities. Yasin Hamdi.
The early presidential elections of the next 7th of September will benefit from an extensive media coverage ruled by well-defined rules of entomology to ensure the transparency of the electoral process. The National Independent Authority for Elections has established the media coverage modalities of the candidates to the presidential elections by the audiovisual media, written and digital press. The public and private media have to ensure an equitable access to the candidates. The interventions have to be equitably shared in terms of time under the supervision of the National Independent Authority for Elections in coordination with the National Independent Authority for the Audiovisual Regulation. The media have also to ensure the candidates or their representatives an equitable participation in the scheduled broadcasts for an objective media coverage of the candidates' activities during the electoral campaign. The media have to respect series of law related to the credibility and impartiality principles. They have to verify the veracity of the shared information in order to avoid spreading fake news and avoid any preferential treatment of a candidate. In addition to that, the media have to respect the private lives and the dignity of everyone without sharing any content encouraging hatred, discrimination, violence, or discrediting the government institutions. The right to reply must be guaranteed within the set deadline according to the laws that rule the written and digital press as well as the audiovisual activities. The regulation stipulates that the 3-day period of electoral silence before the D-Day has to be respected, during which the media can only cover the organizational aspect of the elections and raise awareness among the citizens of the voting modalities.
And raising awareness of the importance of taking part in the elections is at the heart of campaigns for citizens. Young people are largely called upon to participate, especially those who will be voting for the first time. In Sidi Bel Abbas province, young people are encouraged to fulfill their national duty. Nawal Bertuba and Rania Bahri.
After reaching the legal voting age, this young man from Sidi Bel Abbas province will fulfill his electoral duty for the first time on September 7th.
I'm 18 years old. I'm happy to vote, which is an act of citizenship.
For these young people, using the right to vote represents a way to exercise their citizenship and strengthen the civic engagement. It is also to encourage the massive participation of young people in the election that an awareness campaign was organized in Sidi Bel Abbas province.
I will vote on September 7th. I call on young people to do so. It's a way to contribute to the realization of our aspirations.
This is the second time that I'm going to vote. I urge young people to go and vote massively. We will be there on September 7th. As an Algerian citizen, it is my duty to vote for the best candidate.
اختارينا احنا باش نهبطوا عند الشباب في المقاهي والساحات العمومية في الشوارع المركزية.
We have chosen to meet young people in cafes and public squares in Sidi Bel Abbas to raise their awareness about the importance of this electoral deadline and encourage them to vote massively.
Young people are essential players in the success of the electoral process and the strengthening of participatory democracy, hence the importance of raising their awareness and encouraging them to participate in force in these elections.
And third session of the Algeria-Italy Strategic Dialogue on Bilateral Ties, Political Issues and Security took place today in Rome, under the co-chairmanship of the Secretary-General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, National Committee Abroad, Maran, and his Italian counterpart, Riccardo Gariglia. This session, attended by a large multi-sector delegation, was an opportunity for the two parties to carry out a progress assessment of bilateral cooperation and its prospects in the various sectors in the light of the outputs adopted at the second session of this cooperation mechanism held in Algiers. During the talks between the two parties, Maran and his Italian counterpart held an in-depth exchange of views on the state of Algerian-Italian relations and the prospects for the strengthening, as well as on current regional and international issues of common interest, in particular the situation in Gaza, the question of Western Sahara, the situation in the Sahel, and relations between Algeria and the European Union. And the Moroccan Progressive Movement denounced the political U-turn of Paris on the subject of the Sahrawi cause. France's support for the Moroccan autonomy plan against international legitimacy made it the movement to call on the French president to respect the United Nations process. Najah Tayyar with the details.
France's latest stance in support of Morocco's alleged sovereignty over the Western Sahara continues stirring up anger. This time it's the turn of the Moroccan Progressive Movement to denounce France's reversal of its position, which it considers scandalous and contradicting with the international legality, by supporting the Maran regime in Paris, disregarding all the principles of the international law and supporting colonization. The Moroccan Progressive Movement is outraged.
France's decision is a personal recognition by President Macron, who pandered to the interests of the French companies based in Morocco. This personal recognition by the president and diplomats have no impact on the question of Western Sahara, which is a question of decolonization. Even if the Maran regime is prepared to make concessions and sacrifice anything to obtain recognition for Western Sahara, it knows that it has lost and that all these attempts have failed. Everyone knows that the Moroccan diplomats have lost Western Sahara because of their arrogance and ignorance, and they know historically that the Sahrawi territories have nothing to do with Morocco.
According to the Moroccan Progressive Movement, the decolonization and independence of the Western Sahara is only a matter of time, as confirmed by the Secretary-General of the United Nations.
The UN Secretary-General and the majority of the UN members recognize that Western Sahara is a decolonization issue and that the Sahrawi people have the right to self-determination and independence under the leadership of the Polisario Front, the legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people. We have repeatedly raised at the UN the serious violation of human rights in the Sahrawi territories and denounced the crimes of the Maran, calling for respect of international law.
This Moroccan opponent thus calls on the French president to support the Sahrawi people's legitimate right to self-determination in accordance with the United Nations resolutions which consider colonization a crime against humanity.
And following the French announcement of support for the so-called Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara, the United Nations recalled, as it did many times before, that the Sahrawi question remains a question of decolonization. Najah Tayyar.
The United Nations once again has reaffirmed its position on the Sahrawi question, which it considers to be unequivocally a question of decolonization, and that the Sahrawi people have the right to decide their own future. According to a report to be presented by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to the 79th session of the General Assembly, it states that the Security Council considers the question of Western Sahara as a question of peace and security, calling for a just, lasting and mutually acceptable political solution guaranteeing the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. The pseudo-Moroccan autonomy plan for the Western Sahara has raised an outcry across the four corners of the globe. At the International Conference of Communist Parties in Ecuador, participants from 20 countries in Latin America, Europe and Asia approved a resolution supporting the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and reaffirming support for the Polisario Front as the sole legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people. French parties, personalities and MPs have also strongly condemned Emmanuel Macron's policy on the Western Sahara.
France's position is contradictory to its role as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and it knows that its position is illegal. First, because it's not based on international legitimacy. Second, this position doesn't represent the decisions of the European Union and the latest judgment of the International Court of Justice.
This shameful position, which is dishonorable for us, undermines the credibility of France, which claims to defend the values of freedom, human rights, equality, and the defense of international legitimacy. All these slogans have collapsed, revealing its hypocrisy.
The unilateral stance taken by France President Emmanuel Macron regarding the so-called autonomy plan proposed by Morocco has caused anger and divided the French political class, prompting the director of the Institute of International and Strategic Relations to declare that France should have relied on Security Council resolutions. And under the headline Espionage, International Law, Disinformation, Why Does France Give in So Much to Morocco? The French magazine Maran highlighted the reasons behind France's submission to Moroccan excesses and the occupation of the Saharan lands, pushing it to tremble on international law, expressing bitter regret about the position of France's diplomacy, which bowed in a humiliating fashion to the Moroccan regime.
To the occupied Palestinian territories now, where at least 8 Palestinians were martyred and others injured today after the Zionist occupation forces shelled the central Gaza Strip in Al-Matahin area south of Deir el-Balah city. Since the 7th of October 2023, the Zionist occupation forces killed no less than 39,000 martyrs with more than 91,000 wounded, while creating an unprecedented humanitarian disaster that caused the displacement of more than 85% of the Gaza Strip population. And that was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.